to one of our top stories. A major breakthrough has been claimed in a research over cancer. A small drug trial was conducted on 18 cancer patients, but it resulted in miraculous results, with the tumor vanishing in each and every one of those patients who took part in this clinical trial. During the trial at a New York cancer center, the drug named dostarlimab was given to all the 18 patients every 3 weeks for 6 months. In the end, the tumor could not be detected in any of the tests. However, the researchers who reviewed the drug say, while the results are astonishing, a large-scale trial is needed. I am joined on the broadcast by Dr. Pramod Kumar Julka, Senior Director, Cancer Care Oncology of Max Healthcare. Dr. Julka, thank you so much for joining us on the discussion. In fact, I'm also joined by Dr. Hitesh R. Singhvi, Consultant, Head and Neck Oncosurgery from the Fortis Hospital. Coming to you, Dr. Julka, first, this gives a lot of people big hope. When I read this story to begin with, the kind of emotions this can stir, the fact that something as dangerous as cancer, finally we could be hitting upon a cure for it. That is something, which is tremendous. At this point, how do you think people should absorb this news?
Yes, this is true that a phase 2 trial has been conducted, and this trial has shown 100% complete responses in patients with advanced rectal cancer who are mismatch repair deficient. Normally chemotherapy and radiation is the question where we do first chemo radiation followed by surgery in locally advanced rectal cancers, cancer of the rectum. And here there are certain deficiencies in the mismatch repair genes, which we call mismatch repair deficient or MSI, microsatellite instability high. In those cases, this drug PD-1 inhibitor, this drug works better. They have used dostarlimab. We can use pembrolizumab, also PD-1 inhibitors, and they have shown 100% responses at 6 months. Now, what we are interested that in the long-term follow-up, let us see what are the results. But these results are very encouraging and very good.
Right. Coming to you, Dr. Singhvi, this is, if for a layman, if we want to explain to them, as Dr. Julka was also saying, that this is at the moment maybe stage 2 of the clinical trial which is going on. What are the next likely steps? When do we actually see that this research, this experimental drug at the moment, which has shown this miraculous results on 18, a very small pool of people, at the moment, what are the next steps in it? Because the skeptics might say this is just a trial on 18 people. Although in this case, tumors have technically disappeared, it's not shown up in any of the tests, but it's a very small pool of people. So how should we, look at this? Do we need to follow up in a number of more steps which are required next?
Yes.
So it is a usual way of how the research is done. First, we do phase 1 and phase 2 study, and then we follow it up with phase 3 study. So basically, phase 1 is to look at the safety of the drug, phase 2 is efficacy, and phase 3 is to compare it with standard of treatment. And as Dr. Julka absolutely rightly said, that in rectal cancers, normally what we perform is chemotherapy and radiotherapy followed by surgery. But in this case, of course, it's a small pool of patients, 18 patients, but the result is astonishing. Even on PET scan, MRI, and even on clinical examination, there has been no disease found. Though the follow-up is 6 months, but with time and with more studies, we are heading towards something very surprising and very fruitful.
Dr. Julka, coming to you again, have we ever had this kind of an experience before? Because again, we have to be very measured in how we look at this, very extremely hopeful news information which has come where this particular drug has shown these kind of results. But, has it happened previously where there has been such an instance where a drug has shown an experiment at a very experimental stage good results, but later on probably, once we sift more, once we put the drug through further tests, there are different results shown. So are there any precedents in the past that and what can we learn from it? Or is this the first of its kind?
Yes, actually, there have been studies in which initially the results have been very good, and later on we could get some recurrences. But here we have to see further follow-up. Long-term follow-up has to be done, as Dr. Saab already told about phase 3 studies have to be done. And we do, because this drug is not available in India. And there are other PD-1 inhibitors which are available in India, which we have already used in mismatch repair deficient cases, but we have used after chemoradiation and surgery. That is the thing. You have to use it before. The advantage is that no chemo is required, no radiation, no surgery. That is what they are claiming. Now, if this is the case, and there are astonishing results like this, 100% complete response, I think we have achieved a goal, a short-term goal, where 6 months follow-up has shown excellent results. Now we hope that this would further follow on, and further follow-up will show us that this can work even for years to come.
Right. Dr. Singhvi, if we have to, if I have to again play the skeptic in this situation, this is 18 patients in New York, rectum cancer. These are the conditions that we're looking at in terms of the small pool of people on whom the trial has been conducted. What are the things now which need to be sorted out in terms of how we test this drug even further? Because, as I said, it's a very select group of people, a very select type of cancer, and in New York that we're looking at. So if we have to look at it from a skeptical point of view, what are the things, which still need to be sifted further?
So as rightly said, it is a very small pool of patients. Getting any productive statistical analysis on such cases is difficult, on such study is difficult. Second is it is on select group of patients on whom we are dealing only with advanced rectal cancers. We are not dealing with any other cancers. So first, these results can be extrapolated only to specific cancers, as Dr. Julka said, only to DMR, that is mismatch repair resistance gene. So we are looking only at select group of patient, and of course it is hospital bias. We are looking only at the study was done only in a hospital, MSKCC in New York. So of course, how does it will behave in an different Indian scenario or in different ethical, I would say, being, it is questionable. But definitely getting a complete clinical response, even on your scans, MRI, PET scan, and clinical examination, it's a food for thought for further research.
Right. Before I wrap up this discussion, Dr. Julka and Dr. Singhvi, I'll actually leave the last word to both of you. What would you say? What is the main takeaway? The big message of hope probably that we can take away from the clinical trial results which have come through for this particular drug, which has been seen as a miracle drug for cancer at the moment, though it's at a very early stage. But what's the main takeaway? Dr. Julka first.
Actually, what we take away, the message is that in mismatch repair deficient cases, where we do MSI, and we are doing, let me tell you that we are doing MSI routinely for rectal cases, colorectal cases in a routine way, and not only for certain cases. We are doing for all the cases MSI. And MSI means microsatellite instability, where we find the mismatch repair deficient proteins, and where there is a mismatch repair deficient, there we can use these PD-1 inhibitors. Now, the cases are very few out of all the cases which we see, rectal cases or colorectal cases, which we see, they are mostly MSI stable. But there are very few cases which are, MSI high or deficient cases. And plus, the cost of the drug also has to be taken into consideration in Indian scenario.
Right, absolutely. Whether it will be accessible for a majority or not. Dr. Singhvi, the last word?
Yes,
so absolutely,
the drug is not accessible. The drug is not available in India. The drug which has been tried but we can try other PD-1 inhibitors, like pembrolizumab, Keytruda.
Right. Dr. Singhvi?
So as Dr. Julka correctly mentioned, it can be a costly affair. It is somewhere around $1275 for one dose, which will go on for 3 weekly, and the end point is still the disease progression. So it will be a costly affair. But definitely the next step is to try it in a bigger setting where we'll be able to divide them into two groups. One group who will not receive such treatment, and second group who will receive this miracle drug, and then get the result. Those results will be completely applicable on real world settings. And if we are able to reproduce these results in phase 3 studies, which is a randomized control study, then definitely it will be a practice changing phenomenon.
Right. Dr. Julka, Dr. Singhvi, thank you so much for joining us on this very important discussion on major claims being made in terms of this particular drug and cancer research in New York.